No, you don't need the.
I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend.
Talking on it though, then
He a
you can't look
legend.
it up later.
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
Pico money, Pico money, Pico money. We making Pico money. Payday, about to throw a rack on China. Need some DFS advice, where can I find some? League of Items got the sheet with all the lineups and all the stacks that you need to get to diamond. League of Items!
Getting gold, that's the goal. Keep on winning on a roll. Kill for dragons, got soul. Now you got nowhere to go. Teleporting top to bot. Dive your carry on the spot. That's an ace. Wreck your base. Wear my crown. We on top.
It's the league, it's the league, it's the league, it's the league, it's the league of items.
League of Items!
Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Legend, he a legend, he a legend.
Legend, 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 legend,
legend,
legend.
legend.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Michael, aka Pikel, with League of Items. Today, we're going to take a look at all of the matchups for April 11th. I'm going to go game by game, tell you which money lines and spreads I like potentially. If I have a really good feeling, I'll probably try to look at some of the kill totals. But those change relatively often, so I'm not really focused on the kill amounts, and it's a little bit more difficult to predict based on game flow. Like, there is going to be some value on kill totals at some point, but right now I'm not seeing a lot of value in it. I think that I want to thank some people on Twitter for reaching out to me and saying that they want a little bit more betting information. The video yesterday did pretty well. So today, the first thing that I could say is please like and share, especially my patrons. If this gets 20 likes and 20 shares, I'm going to make my next sheet available for free to everybody who joins Patreon. I want to be able to grow the channel and help as many people as possible. Obviously, we all want to make money off of this, but at the same time, I think during Corona times, it's great to have like a new hobby for a lot of people and to kind of learn a new sport, even if it's an esport, because it's going to be around forever now. So if you want to watch some of these matchups, normally you'd have to watch them online, but I think starting tomorrow, ESPN's actually going to broadcast them on television. So if you want to have a little bit of action on the games while you watch them on TV, give this video a like, give the channel a subscribe, share it around, and hopefully you get some good picks out of it. So the first matchup we're going to do is in Europe tomorrow. There's actually a European match going on right now. We're in between games, so I figured I'd make this pretty quick. It's Mad Lions against Fnatic. Mad Lions in their last matchup beat G2. So if there was more money being bet on sports books, I would expect this line to be released a little bit lower, because as the sport grows, you're going to get more smart money betting on underdogs that are inappropriately priced. I think that Mad Lions is inappropriately priced at plus 330. They beat G2, and regardless of what G2 is going to tell you, it looked like they were trying their best in those games. That matchup wasn't a fluke. If they played again tomorrow, I would pick G2 again. I think they are the better team overall, but Mad Lions proved a lot in that matchup that they can go toe-to-toe with the best team in Europe, which is G2. So, can they beat Fnatic? I would say Fnatic is definitely a better organization as a whole than G2. They're just less talented than G2. So they are a little bit more cerebral, and I think that some of the ways that Mad Lions could beat G2 by exploiting large kill amounts is going to be a little more difficult to do against Fnatic. So I think that if I was going to do a money line, I would probably say that there's more value on Mad Lions' side, but not by an extreme amount. So let's take a look. It's a lot more honest to say that in these kinds of matchups, the better team is going to have a 10% edge, or maybe even a 15% edge over the underdog in almost every matchup. Like, sometimes you see these lines that are like 80-20, and I don't think that's ever really the case, because professional teams, if they're drafting correctly, are going to luck into a win every once in a while. So I think if I was going to bet money line, I do favor the Mad Lions side. I wouldn't put I wouldn't put a ton of money on it. But if I had to pick money line, I would go Mad Lions. Maybe put like a third of a unit on it, something like that. For the spread, I definitely like Mad Lions side. I think that they will keep this. I think that they will be able to keep this. For the spread, I would definitely go Mad Lions side if I had to pick one of these sides. I think that they are a live dog, can win outright, but it's an even better bet on the spread. Do I think Fnatic has the chance of winning this series 3-0? I don't think that happens very often, but in order to cover the spread, they only really need to do that. They only need to have a 3-1. So I could see the argument for betting Fnatic, but after Mad Lions' most recent performance, I don't think they're just going to go out and get dominated by Fnatic. If we look at this matchup lane by lane, I think we see an advantage for Fnatic in the top lane. Bwipo is probably the best top laner in Europe. I think that he has a much deeper understanding of League of Legends than a lot of other players, and that's made apparent by his interviews that he gives on the stage. He's very eloquent and can kind of communicate his point, and I think that's a great attribute to have as a top laner specifically, because there's a lot less action in top lane. So if he can help his team by giving them good information throughout the game and kind of helping them shot call, it's something that most teams don't have. In the jungle, I think that it's much closer to 50-50. Shadow had an amazing series last time against G2 Esports. I think he was the first or second highest scoring player on his team, even though Mad Lions would like to play around their AD carry Carzzy. Shadow is the player who allows them to get to that position. So as long as Mad Lions drafts strong champions for Shadow in the early game, he can make a difference on the map. I think that Mad Lions will probably be the more aggressive side in this matchup. And in this meta, I think being aggressive is correct. So playing around the early dragons, diving towers, fighting over Rift Herald, I think all of those things are much more important than they are in other metas where you can kind of just scale into the late game. Fnatic is at their best when they can just scale, let the game go on 30 minutes, 35 minutes before they really have to make that game-winning play. You see that in their Worlds performance last year. They played a lot of Garen, Yuumi, and these hyperscaling comps, and eventually they got figured out by the Korean and Chinese teams, and they were knocked out. They had a great performance at Worlds, but they just couldn't stand up to the highest levels of competition. I think that the aggressive playstyle for Mad Lions is one of the reasons they have a great chance tomorrow. If we look at the mid lane, Humanoid and Nemesis, I don't think there's a big difference between those two players. They're both going to get some of your basic Corki champions, Azir champions. They might have a few other pocket picks that they want to play, but I don't think that either of them is going to make a unique champion choice that we haven't seen yet. They're just not those kinds of players. They're both flexible and can play multiple champions, but in this environment, I don't think that either team is going to say to themselves, I think that the winning difference for this matchup is going to be our mid lane. I just don't see that happening. And then in the bot lane, we have Rekkles and Hylissang versus Carzzy and Kaiser. Carzzy and Kaiser have been very good for DraftKings scoring for this entire split. Rekkles and Hylissang definitely have the experience advantage and have played on the world stage together. They have good synergy with one another. Hylissang is often the man left out in terms of DraftKings scoring because one of his primary roles is to be the engage. So if somebody has to go in and die in order to create a good game environment for a teamfight win, he's willing to do that, and he does it very well. So my final thoughts on this is that I think it's going to be another close series for Mad Lions. I don't think that the matchup against G2 was a fluke, but it was a little bit better of a matchup stylistically against G2. So I am considering putting on a moneyline bet on Mad Lions. I wouldn't put a full unit on it. I'd probably do something like a third of a unit. And then in regards to the spread, I prefer the Mad Lions side over Fnatic. One thing when you're picking underdogs is that you need to be correct less often to break even. So that's another good reason to, consider betting the money line on Mad Lions. Even if you get this wrong, the upside is very high. If you pick Fnatic to win at minus 476 to win $100 and you have to put down $475, sure, you might make around a 20% return, but you're risking a much higher amount of money. So that does scare me a little bit. For the Cloud9 matchup, we have Cloud9 against Evil Geniuses. This is a very extremely polarized matchup in terms of style. I think that the spread, Evil Geniuses plus 2.5, is ridiculous. I would definitely consider taking that pick. All they need to do is win one game in a best of 5. I think it's best of 5, right? Let me check that real quick.